William Harper stepped out of the black taxi, the dim streetlights casting a glow on his impeccably tailored gray suit. He pulled his suitcase, the wheels rolling rhythmically on the pavement, a steady beat mirroring the meticulously ordered life he led. London, with its sudden drizzles and ceaseless noise, had drained him after a long week of meetings in Frankfurt. The firm handshakes, polite smiles, and multi-million-pound contracts were all part of the world he had built, yet they left him feeling hollowed out. All he craved now was the quiet of his home, a sanctuary where everything was in its place, a fortress of order shielding him from the chaos outside. His three-story townhouse in Kensington, with its tall windows and minimalist interior, was a testament to William's life. Not a single item out of place, not a speck of dust astray. He opened the door, the click of the lock echoing in the empty hallway. But as he stepped inside, he froze. A strange sound, faint like a whispering breeze, threaded through the space. It wasn't the hum of the air conditioner or the drip of a kitchen faucet. It was something alive, like the breath of a child's dream, slicing through the silence he cherished. William frowned, irritation rising like a reflex. He paid Anna, his housekeeper, to maintain this house as a bastion of perfection. So why this sound? His footsteps echoed as he moved toward the kitchen, where a soft golden light spilled from the slightly ajar door. He pushed it open, and before him was a scene that didn't belong in his world. Anna, the loyal woman who had cared for his home for 3 years, stood by the kitchen table, 2 infants sleeping peacefully in a carrier strapped to her chest. William stood frozen at the kitchen threshold, his hand gripping the doorframe. His gaze locked on Anna and the 2 infants nestled in the carrier against her chest. Their breathing was steady, delicate, like gentle waves lapping at the shore in the quiet of dawn. But to William, that sound was a crack in the perfect wall of his life. He cleared his throat, trying to regain control. "Anna," he said, his voice low and sharp. "Can you explain what's going on here?" Anna looked up, her eyes weary but unwavering. She gently adjusted the fabric of the carrier, as if shielding the children from his cold tone. "They're my grandchildren," she began, her voice soft, but clear as though she'd rehearsed this moment. She explained that her sister Clara had died 3 weeks earlier in a car accident on a rain-slicked suburban road. The children's father, a man Anna mentioned with subtle disdain, had vanished soon after, leaving no explanation. Their grandmother, a woman worn down by time, couldn't care for 2 newborns. "I couldn't let them go to an orphanage," Anna said, her eyes glinting with resolve. "They're my family. I brought them here because I had nowhere else." William listened, but each of Anna's words was like a stone dropped into the still lake of his life, sending uncontrollable ripples. He wanted to ask why she hadn't warned him, why she dared turn his home into a refuge. But as his gaze fell on the tiny hand of the baby girl clutching the edge of the carrier, as if clinging to life, his chest tightened. This wasn't his world, a world of contracts, numbers, and unyielding rules. This was Anna's world, one of loss and duty. Anger flared in William like a reflex. He paid Anna to keep this house as an impenetrable fortress where everything stayed in its place. Now here she stood, with 2 children and a heartbreaking story shattering every rule he'd set. "Do you think I'm running a charity?" he asked, his voice cold as steel, though kept low to avoid startling the children. "You know the rules, Anna. No outsiders, no mess. You could be fired for this." Anna didn't respond immediately. She bent down, adjusting the carrier to keep the boy from slipping, then met William's gaze. "I know I've crossed a line," she said, her voice steady without a trace of fear. "But I didn't do this for me, Mr. Harper. I did it for Clara, for the promise I made her. If you want me to leave, I'll leave. But I can't abandon them." She held the children closer, as if her embrace was their only shield against a world ready to swallow them whole. William felt his anger falter under Anna's gaze. There was no defiance, no pleading, just quiet desperation, laced with a loyalty he couldn't fully grasp. He wanted to issue orders to restore order by sending her away. But the sight of her standing there with the two sleeping infants against her chest left him speechless. For the first time, he felt he wasn't in control. A strange sensation stirred within him, not anger, but a faint spark of compassion, something he'd long buried. William retreated to his study, closing the door, to shut out the soft breathing of the children. The light from his desk lamp illuminated stacks of documents, contracts signed in black ink, and numbers precise to the penny. His life was a perfectly orchestrated symphony with no room for errant notes. But Anna and the children had entered an uninvited melody, disrupting everything. He sat down, chin resting on his hand, his gaze lost in the darkness beyond the window. He thought of the years spent building his career, the exhausting days proving he could control everything. Success had come, but with it loneliness. This house, though elegant with its white walls and polished wood floors, was never truly a home. Anna, with her quiet cleaning and timely meals, was the only one who brought any warmth to it. Yet he'd never asked about her life, about what she faced outside her work. Now she stood before him, carrying a world of grief and hope, placing it in his hands. William thought of Clara, a woman he'd never met, and the two children who now had only Anna to rely on. He thought of himself a man who had everything but nothing truly meaningful. Anna's sacrifice, though a breach of his rules, held a strength he couldn't find in boardrooms or contracts. Compassion, which he'd always seen as weakness, now burned like a small flame in his mind. He knew he couldn't send her away, but he didn't know what to do next. In the silence of the room, he heard his own breathing, sinking with a world he'd never dared to touch. William rose from his chair, his hands still gripping the edge of the desk, as if clinging to a world he had always controlled. But the soft breathing of the two infants, though separated by a hallway, seeped into his mind, a reminder that the order he cherished couldn't shield him from the fragility of life. He returned to the kitchen, where Anna still stood, her eyes no longer resolute, but tinged with quiet anxiety awaiting his verdict. William took a deep breath, and in that moment he made a decision that surprised even himself. "I'm not going to fire you," he said, his voice low, but no longer sharp. "But you need to understand that I know nothing about children and this house. It's not a place for them." Anna nodded, her lips pressed tight, as if ready to accept any condition. But William wasn't finished. "I'll help you," he continued, his voice softening, almost unfamiliar to himself. "Not because I want to, but because I can't let you and the children fall into the void." He pulled out his phone, calling a friend who worked at a local charity, requesting assistance to find temporary housing and financial support for Anna and her grandchildren. He didn't promise to become their guardian, but he knew he couldn't turn his back. As Anna left the kitchen to settle the children in a small upstairs room, William lingered, looking around the kitchen. This space had once been a symbol of sterility, with its gleaming surfaces and not a scratch in sight. But now a hastily placed baby bottle on the counter, a small cloth dropped by a chair, and the faint scent of baby powder had changed everything. The silence he had once craved was no longer empty. It carried a new warmth, as if for the first time this house was truly alive. William stepped into the hallway, the light from the chandelier reflecting off the polished wood floor, but he no longer saw it as part of an impregnable fortress. He heard Anna softly singing a lullaby from the distant room, the steady breathing of the two children blending with it. The chaos he had once feared no longer felt threatening. It was a sign of something greater, a world he had never dared to enter, but now he had opened the door. Compassion, which he had once deemed a luxury, had become the flame lighting the path ahead, guiding him toward a version of himself he had never known. William sat in the living room, the light from the fireplace dancing on the once cold gallery-like white walls. Night had fallen, cloaking London in a misty veil. The patter of rain against the windows blended with the steady breathing of the two children from the upstairs room where Anna was lulling them to sleep. That sound, though faint, filled the house with something William hadn't realized he'd been missing life. He didn't become a father or guardian overnight. He knew he wasn't ready for that. But in the 3 days since Anna brought the children, William had changed. He reached out to social organizations, arranged a support fund for Anna and her grandchildren, and even found a small apartment nearby for her to start anew. He did these things not out of charity, but because he realized true wealth wasn't in the numbers in his bank account or the contracts he signed. It was in the people you chose not to abandon. William closed his eyes, listening to Anna's soft singing drifting down. The children's breathing, the rustle of care, and the invisible thread connecting him to Anna and the two infants had transformed this house. For the first time in years, William felt he belonged to something greater. He smiled faintly, not the practiced smile of boardroom meetings, but a real one warm like the fire crackling in the hearth.